The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our CNP Weekly webinar. My name is Colleen Fillmore, and I'm the Idaho State Department of Education Child Nutrition Director. On this webinar is the entire staff of CNP to answer any questions you have in running the USDA child nutrition programs during the COVID-19. There have been some specific areas of confusion with the number of waivers that USDA has unveiled. So we felt it would be helpful to address these questions at the beginning of the webinar, then go over the questions we received ahead of time. And please note that we have included several handouts on this webinar that you can download. There are 4 in total. And we will be projecting some of these documents on the screen during the webinar, so you also have a visual to look at. During the webinar, please add any additional questions you have, and we will answer those. This webinar is being recorded and will be put on the governor's website for later reference if you choose to view it again. Okay, so let's get started. You should see on your screen some information that we worked on yesterday. And I'm actually just going to go through and read this, but we felt that it would be really good. We talked after our last webinar that, a lot of us are visual learners, and so we want you to be able to see what it is that we're looking at. And this is also one of the handouts. So please, if this is helpful to you, you like it, you want a copy, download it for yourself. So let's just kind of start at the top. We understand and sympathize with the number of changes and waivers that USDA has unveiled over the last several days. The Idaho State Department of Education Child Nutrition have been working hard to keep all forms, Q&As, and resources up to date. Thank you for your patience as we work through all these changes. At this time, all materials have been put on the governor's website and sent to your local child nutrition director. As we all know, recently the governor has put into effect a statewide stay-home order. Due to this, if a sponsor chooses to continue feeding children under the CNP programs, they must run either summer food or seamless summer, whichever they qualify for. Sponsors must complete and submit a COVID congregate feeding waiver request form, and Attachment A is their very first step in order to serve meals. If you haven't done that, you need to do that first. That's the very first thing you need to do before we can approve any other waivers. In addition, Idaho State Department of Education applied for a COVID-19 summer seamless area eligible SFA waiver that was granted this last Sunday on the 29th. The Idaho State Department of Ed, we applied for this waiver due to the pandemic and school closures that have created an economic uncertainty in Idaho. So this is where there's been some confusion. Under this new waiver, only sponsors that were approved as a closed enrolled site with less than 50% free and reduced eligibility may apply for and operate as an open feeding site and receive free reimbursement for all meals. CNP staff have already reached out to those sponsors who qualify for this waiver. Sponsors approved to operate as an open feeding site do not need to complete this waiver request form, as the terms of the waiver already apply to your site. And please note that the word open in the USDA terminology does not mean that we consider your building is open for business. If sponsors are approved as a closed enrolled site with less than 50% free and reduced eligibility and choose not to complete and submit the COVID-19 Summer Seamless Area Eligible SFA request form, meals must be counted by student name and eligibility during each meal service for claiming. Please be advised, FNS reserves the right to withdraw this approval subject to availability of funding. Therefore, the state agency encourages to take a targeted approach when determining meal sites to ensure the site benefits children in need. And lastly, it is a local decision and not a mandate that the CMP sponsor submits a COVID-19 summer seamless area eligible SFA request form. So if you have any questions on that, please feel free to submit questions in the questions section. So what we're going to look at next, and again, as a reminder, that information that I just went over is located in the handouts, and so you can download that. So we only received 4 questions ahead of time. So we're going to go ahead and do a Q&A on those 4 and give you the answers to those 4 right now. And okay, the first question is child nutrition programs looking at any financial relief for school districts with a loss of revenue? We are paying employees as though they are still working. While I know this is a local decision, I think it is what most recommend doing. Any insight you can provide? So the answer to that question is, at this time, we do not know, we don't have any knowledge of emergency funding for any CMP program area coming from USDA. But please note, with the most recent COVID-19 summer seamless area eligible request form, state agencies approved closed enrolled summer and seamless sponsors may opt in to operate as an open site and receive reimbursement for all meals. Number 2, we are participating in the parent guardian to pick up meals for eligible children waiver and are currently having parents sign indicating they picked up meals for eligible kids. Can we write down their names on a form instead of having them sign the form? The answer is yes. Writing names down for the parent is the best practice in order to maintain social distancing. And thank you for that idea. We love to hear the best practice ideas, so thank you so much. Third question, a student who is 21 years old but registered in an eligible school qualifies for free meals. The student is coming to a meal site operating under summer food. His school is not operating a meal site. He qualifies for free meals under NSLP, but not under summer food. Can he receive a free meal at our site? The answer is, if the student is currently on an IEP and participating in the 1821 program, they may receive a meal at a summer or seamless feeding site. Persons over 18 years of age who are determined by a state educational agency or a local public educational agency of a state to be mentally or physically handicapped and who participate in a public or non-private school program established for the mentally or physically handicapped are able to participate in the summer food or the seamless. The last question is, should home delivered meals be recorded on a separate daily count sheet? The answer is yes. A separate daily meal count sheet should be used for each individual household. When SFAs opt in for the home meal delivery flexibility on the COVID-19 nationwide USDA waiver request form, SFAs are required to retain information specific to this waiver, such as family written consent, number of children receiving meals in the household, delivery days and times, and the number of meals served. And this information also applies to those in CACFP, which is the Child and Adult Care Food Program sponsors. However, they do not need to be an SFA to participate and must complete the CACFP COVID-19 nationwide USDA waiver request form. So let me look to see if we have any questions. So just hang on for a second here and let me Oh, we do. We have a number of questions here. And thank you for asking these questions because everyone learns from them, and that's what these webinars are all about. Okay, first question. We have had about 7 special ed students who come into our building for special services. Other than that, our students are all doing online learning. Does this mean that our site is closed and we can run under the summer program? So I'm hopeful that the information that I read to you already, and again, I would suggest downloading these 2 handouts. I do think that we answered that, but the child nutrition team, is there anyone that would like to jump in and add anything else?
Next question. Will our orders we have already submitted in WebSCM, getting a lot of feedback. Make sure you guys are muted. Will our orders we already have submitted in WebSCM be adjusted if our entitlement is reduced?
Keep in mind that the estimated entitlement that is currently in WebSCM was used to already procure foods. So back to the previous question, we don't know how that will be handled by USDA in terms of adjustments, but there are a lot of people that have asked the same question, and so USDA is aware that there is potentially a large impact because orders were placed based on an estimated entitlement. So the idea is that if an adjustment occurs that negatively impacts recipient agencies and the amount of food, the food has already been spoken for and contracts have already been issued. So this is one of the complexities of the way the USDA foods world works, is you're asked to order foods before you really know how much money you have. So there are people that are aware of the situation, and as soon as we know more, we're hopeful that there will be an adjustment, but I just can't say that there will currently at this time.
Next question, I need clarification on bus routes. Is each stop considered a site? So there are several sites in the CNP application.
Okay, I'll take this one. Yes, each bus stop is considered a site. However, in my Idaho CNP, so if you have bus route number 1 and it has 7 sites, we are putting bus route number 1 in my Idaho CNP, not bus route number 1, stop 2. That would be too much for claiming. So we would ask that you claim bus route 1, bus route 2. I hope that answers the question.
We are doing a provision 2 base year this year. Is there any changes we should know about in regards to determining claiming percentages?
We have asked this question of USDA and have not received a response back yet.
Understanding the shortage on masks and sanitizers, do you have any other resources for us to try?
Just follow CDC guidance and proper HACCP procedures. We don't have anything further on that one.
Getting more questions in. Next one, follow up on the childcare question. What if the daycare is bringing their children to pick up the meals? Is that allowable?
This is Kim, and yes, that is allowable. If the child is present, they may receive a meal.
Is there a form provided for when parents pick up meals to keep track of who is picking up the meal, and is that required?
Jessica, I'll take this one. So there is a requirement that parent pickup first. The waiver has to be submitted to the state agency. So we're hoping that everyone understands there is a specific waiver that must be submitted so that we can approve parent pickup. But we have heard some best practices regarding this because there's concern to ensure that there's social distancing. So many school districts have gone away from having a parent actually sign a form. Instead, what they're doing is as a parent drives up, there's a small statement being read, something to the effect that please acknowledge that you're picking up meals for children or students that are currently in your home between the ages of 1 and 8. The parent says back, yes, that is what I'm doing. And then many people are just asking for the name. So the food service staff is actually just taking the parent's name and writing it on a document. Their statement is also letting parents know you are not allowed to leave this site and go to another site and pick up meals. So they're trying to make sure assurances are in place under the approved nationwide waiver for parent pickup. So hopefully that helps for that question.
Please address the requirement to take children's names at bus stops if we are operating under the area eligibility waiver. So I can take this one. You are only required to track student names and their eligibility if you are operating as a closed enrolled site and do not have an area eligibility waiver. If you complete the area eligibility waiver, that then allows you to operate as an open site, meaning all you have to do is just tally the number of meals that are served. If you have that waiver approved, you do not have to keep track of student names and eligibility. Next one. We have families that are attending our feeding sites that are not a parent or legal guardian. Can they still pick up meals for children in their care?
Sorry about the silence. The regulation is very specific that they have to be a parent or legal guardian. I don't know how you would handle that.
We served grab-and-go meals for 2 days in March. Do we claim 2 days for March or just add that to April's claim?
Okay, I'm getting Melissa's answer here. In summer food, claims fewer than 10 days are counted on the next. In seamless summer, I'm not sure the answer, but we are working through that as this is a new program for us.
Next question, can all of these great questions and answers be published for reference? Yes, same as last week's webinar. If you go to the governor's website, we are updating that Q&A after every webinar and including these questions. So after this webinar is over, we will update that Q&A and get it posted to the governor's website as quickly as we can. Next question. We are serving both breakfast and lunch in one bag. On our meal count sheet, are each of these counted as one meal? So then we can assume that each meal equals one breakfast and one lunch.
If you're serving it, I would suggest you put on your meal count sheet that you're serving breakfast and lunch in one bag, and then as you check it off, you get to count one breakfast and one lunch.
Next question. You mentioned that parent or legal guardian was the only one to pick up meals. What about the babysitter? Again, as Linda's already mentioned and Kim has mentioned as well, the regulations are very specific in saying it may only be a parent or legal guardian. The babysitter wants to stop by with the kids, they can pick up a meal, but only the parent or legal guardian may pick it up on behalf of the child. Next question. Sorry, I'm confused about bus routes. I'm trying to complete the application process. In my Idaho CMP, well then in CMP, each of my bus stops is listed as a site. So do I complete the site application for each stop? Because if the sites are completed individually, when it comes time to put in the claim, each one will have to be done individually.
Okay, so I will make a leap here. In your application and attachment A, you are required to put all addresses. However, for attachment A, you should say bus route 1, stop 2, stop 3, and we will just put it in as bus route 1. And that's all that you can see in my Idaho CMP.
Jessica, can you hear me? This is Colleen.
Yes.
Okay, can I go back to the question for a second that asked about a legal guardian? We were on a conference call with Western Region yesterday, and they did say that a sibling, an older sibling, could come. And so I agree with everything that you folks have been saying as far as a parent or guardian. They did say that an older sibling, just like in summer food, could also be someone who could come with and pick up the meals.
Thank you, Colleen.
This is Dominique. Can I jump in on the bus site question just for a moment?
Mm-hmm.
I think confusion is coming from the waiver applications and attachment for bus stop sites as opposed to the actual summer food service program sponsor application. We are dealing with the unanticipated school closures right now, and the first step is to seek permission for the bus stop site drop-offs and provide every single proposed bus stop site on attachment A. The site application for the sponsor annual renewal, that is a little bit of a separate issue. We will get those in, but the first step needs to be attachment A with the request to initiate bus stop sites during the unanticipated school closures. And I think a lot of sponsors are getting confused between your annual summer food application renewal as opposed to applying to have bus stops serve during the unanticipated school closures. And that is the first step that we are talking about. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Dominique. Can you repeat your answer to the question about summer food claims less than 10 days in a month? Your audio was lost in the middle of your answer. Yes, so Melissa said that in SFSP, claims fewer than 10 days will be counted on the following month's claim. The next question says, so we are not supposed to let children pick up for other siblings. Colleen is awesome and just clarified that. Yes, so an older sibling can pick up for their younger siblings. Thank you, that clears it up. If children are not present, only parents and guardians can pick up a meal in the absence of children. Correct, but you may only do parent or guardian pickup if you have an approved waiver. So you need that waiver first before you're allowing parent or guardian pickup. Next question, do we have to make the change in my Idaho CMP for the bus stop sites after the attachment A has been approved?
Okay, I will chime in only because I'm confused by the question.
Well, I think what's happening for some folks is, maybe some of the sponsors had submitted their attachment A and put in 10 bus stops. and didn't indicate that it was on a bus route. And so when entering those into my Idaho CMP, those 10 addresses would be listed as 10 sites. And I think folks are trying to consolidate them into a bus route. So if that's the case, just send us an email and let us know. We can try and make those changes in my Idaho CMP. What form do we use to request the ability to send meals home with parents or guardians when the student is not present? There was a broadcast email that was sent out regarding the waiver. It is I'm on the governor's website now. It is the nationwide waiver request form. That request form is available on the governor's website, and it encompasses the home delivery flexibility, the meal pattern flexibility, and the parent/guardian pickup meal flexibility. So all 3 of those for seamless or summer are on one form. For home deliveries, does each individual address need to be listed on attachment A? No, so attachment A is supposed to list the address of feeding sites. So if you're using bus stops as an open feeding site where any child can go and obtain a meal, we need that to be listed on attachment A. If you're going to be delivering meals directly to individual student homes, we do not need those addresses. That is information that the sponsor has to retain, along with the parent's written consent to deliver to their individual home. And right now, that's all the questions, but I'm sure additional ones will be cut up. Here's one.
Hey,
Yep.
sorry, we have one hand raised.
I don't think under this circumstance they can say anything. So whoever has their hand raised, if they could maybe type a question into the question.
Mm-hmm. I had originally submitted the attachment A with the school being the only site. Then I updated the annual application in my Idaho CMP. This week we added bus stops as sites. Do I now need to go back and update the annual application to add those bus routes as another site?
Yes, bus routes have to be added as a site. You can't claim them under a school.
And just in reading the question, I just want to make sure in adding bus stops as sites, you do have to send in an attachment A and let us know the address of all of those bus stops. So once you do that and let us know how many stops are related to how many bus routes, we can make those adjustments in my Idaho CMP. Well, this is a nice comment, not a question, but it says, thank you for all your help. We appreciate all your hard work. We are trying, so thank you. Thank you guys. You guys are the ones that are out there feeding kids and working hard. So we appreciate all of your hard work.
So everyone, this is Colleen, and I want to thank Jessica for getting in there with the problem that I was having with my internet. We will look at what's going on here and hopefully not have that happen in the future. I had called the head office to talk to them about it, and they said they're wondering if GoToWebinar is getting really taxed as nationwide because so many people are using it. So let us work on that part. We apologize for that. We will send the questions out with answers, and then it has been recorded, as Jessica said, and we will get that out on the governor's website. So you might still have questions coming in, but I just wanted to jump in and make sure that everyone knew that they will be able to get this information.
Okay, next question. Can we ask for children's names when parents or guardians are picking up meals?
I don't think that's necessary as a team. Wasn't it that they need to certify, or what have you been directing people there?
The waiver requests some assurances, and so really it's a local decision about how those assurances look. So there was no specific guidance that said you needed to collect a name, but it did require some assurances. So it really comes down to your practices for, most importantly, your staff's safety.
Okay, next question. We're trying to understand bus routes, but still not clear. Let me see if I can.
One recommendation I would give, this is Colleen, is out on the governor's website. We have a rather long document of Q&A, and there are a number of questions in there with answers that pertain to bus routes. We realize that this is something really new that we haven't had to do before, but USDA is rather specific on how this has to be documented.
And another helpful hint would be just to reach out to your coordinator and have us call you and walk you through your confusion on bus stops.
Okay, if we are taking names of children from parents to comply with not getting duplicate meals, do we need to keep the names for 3 years in our SFSP files?
The USDA regulation on retaining documentation has not changed under this circumstance at this point.
I am a non-area eligible school with less than 50% free and reduced eligibility that was given permission to serve as an SSO. Do I need to have a sign-in sheet by name and claim based on the status of each child, or can I just tally each meal and claim regardless of status? So if you do not currently have an area eligibility waiver in, then yes, you need to claim and keep track of meals by student name and eligibility. But if you fill out and submit the area eligibility waiver, then we can go through that and get you approval to serve as an open site, which would then allow you to just tally each meal. How do we get a copy of the waiver? I have not seen written guidance on the parent picking up meals for children. Again, there was a broadcast email that was sent out this week. And additionally, if you go onto the governor's website, it is the COVID-19 nationwide waiver request form for SFSP and SSO. And it has just behind the name of the file, it'll tell you meal pattern, parent pickup meals, and home delivery. What do you mean taking names for staff safety? Linda, I think this was referring to writing down names for student pick or parent pickup, but I don't know if you want to elaborate.
That was TJ's answer.
Oh, sorry. So what I believe what some sponsors are doing is they've asked parents to sign when operating under the parent pickup waiver. So parents are basically saying, you know, I'm picking up this meal and certifying that I'm not picking up duplicate meals. And so for the safety of child nutrition staff, we're asking, can we write down the name of the parent instead of handing them a piece of paper and pen to limit any type of exposure? If we are a CA-CFP provider that is currently closed and we do not plan on preparing or serving any meals during the closure, are there any forms we need to complete?
This is Kim, and no, there are no forms you need to complete if you're not going to be operating during the closure.
Next question, can we serve more than 1 day of meals at a time?
Hi, this is Dominique. Under the Summer Food Service Program regulations, only 1 day of meals, which is 2 meals, breakfast and lunch or another combination, are allowed to be served. If you opt in to and have a logistical need to provide home delivery to children in the area, and you go through the protocols for that, you may serve more than 1 day's worth of meals under that waiver. But under the general operations of open sites, 1 meal is allowed, or 2 meals 1 day, only 1 day of service.
Is the area eligibility waiver retroactive to when we started serving, or just from when the area eligibility waiver is approved?
I believe that it was March 18th that could go back to, but those that are doing the waivers, is that accurate?
I
This is
believe you're
Dominique.
correct, Colleen.
Yes, on the conference call with Western Region, we did bring up this issue. It was approval was granted on March 18th, and they did mention that they were discussing with legal about if it could be retroactive. So we are waiting for confirmation, final confirmation from Western Region on that.
Thank you, Dominique.
Do we need to add a site to my Idaho CMP application if this site will continue to run for this SFSP during the summer?
No, that has become a summer food site at that time.
Right, those are all the questions we have right now.
Hey, Jessica, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Awesome. I wanted to go back to the question regarding asking if sponsors need to take the child's name and information for the parent or the guardian to pick up the meals. And I want to get clarification on that. If you are operating an open site, you do not and should not take any child's name or information when you're operating as an open site. A lot of the sponsors that I've talked to and how they've encountered that situation is they just simply ask the parent or the guardian if they're providing that to an eligible child whose age is between 1 to 18. So again, if you're operating an open site, you should not be taking any child's name or child's information for confirmation.
Thank you, Marianne, for that clarification. That was good. Jessica, were there any more questions? Have we answered all of them?
Another one just came in. It says, if we are area eligible and we are already approved for SSO, do I need to submit the area eligibility waiver as well? No, the area eligibility waiver is only for those sponsors who were approved as a closed enrolled site, meaning that they were approved with under 50% free and reduced eligibility. So if you were approved as an open site with more than 50% free and reduced eligibility, you do not need a waiver because those conditions already apply to you.
So if we have answered all the questions at this point, CMP team, is there anything that you can think of that was not asked that you could maybe provide any sort of helpful additional information?
Colleen, perhaps we want to walk through the infographics that are available as handouts in this webinar. It won't let me share my screen, but it sounds like your audio is working great now. So I don't know if you want to take over again and maybe share those infographics with folks.
Oops, sorry, I had to take myself off of mute. And so did you want me to share, what was it that you said you wanted me to share, Jessica?
Those two infographics that were created just to help clarify what waiver is and when it would apply.
Absolutely. Since I had to turn my screen off, I kind of lost them. So can everyone see these screens right now?
No, I think you need to go back to the share screen. I don't think all it's showing is the original presenter screen.
Hey, Jessica, why don't you go for it so we don't run out of time, if you can grab onto that.
It won't let me share my screen, but I don't know if any of the other coordinators are able to.
What screen are you seeing right now from on mine?
It's not sharing a screen at all.
Yeah, it's just the original webinar screen, Colleen, you know, when it's the first one, the introductory screen.
Okay, gotcha.
How about I answer? We got a few more questions in, so Colleen, while you work on that, I'll just go ahead and ask a few more questions. Can we continue to run FSP for the remainder of the year if the closure is lifted?
Jessica, can you repeat that question again? You cut off a little bit.
Can we continue to run SFSP for the remainder of the year if the closure is lifted?
So this is Marianne. We, as our SFSP monthly call yesterday, this was specifically discussed. As all of you guys know, our waivers are good through June 30th, or until you know, NSLP or this order has been lifted. And Western Region did indicate that as it gets closer to June, I believe they mentioned May, they will reevaluate and see if the waivers will extend past the June 30th date that they provided us on the waivers. And so more information should come from that as we get closer to the normal summer months operation.
So just
the next question. Oh.
I lost the rights to share my screen, so I unfortunately cannot share it. But they have those as handouts, so they can pull those infographics up as handouts and download them. Just to let everyone know, Jessica and the team did really nice one-pager infographics to show you the steps in how you need to go through a certain step process in the waivers that you have approved. And so there are 4 handouts on this presentation. Please download all 4 of them, and 2 of those 4 are the infographics that unfortunately we're not able to pull up on our screen right now.
Okay, one last question. Oh, just kidding, 2. Seamless summer claims. When you select the month, it doesn't open. Do I need to do something first to have access to submit the claim?
If you've had your waiver in for a while, it should be open. If you've turned it in the last, probably this week, it might not be open yet, and you just need to give it some time. But if you go to My Idaho CMP and go to the Seamless Summer in your sponsor application, click on that and then click on Add Site. So there should be sites in there. You can pick your site out and fill out the information and submit it. If it's not there yet, don't worry, I'll get to it. I'm working through the list Try again after this call, maybe it'll be there.
Next question. So there is no need to go back to help if we go back to school for 2 weeks in May. I'm not sure. There is no need to go back to, oh, I'm sorry. There is no need, thank you for the clarification. There's no need to go back to NSLP if we go back to school for 2 weeks in May. So I guess I'll
Hi, Beth.
rephrase the question. Oh, go ahead.
This is Dominique, and I think, team, we don't have that information. I don't believe, because under normal regulations, if school is in operation, you would be operating under the NSLP. I do not know that we have asked that question or received that information from USDA, but it is a great question. Does anybody else have?
I agree with you, Dominique. If they're back in regular school, my impression was they were supposed to revert back to NSLP.
Yeah, this is Colleen.
And
I would agree too. And on that note, USDA has certainly sent out a number of waivers. So I think probably right now, what both Dominique and Linda are saying is correct. But, you know, time will tell if they put out a waiver, if it's towards the very end of the school year. We just probably don't know the answer to this right now.
Next question. When completing the application, we have parks and sites for our normal SFSP operations. Should we complete the information for these sites?
This is Dominique. Yeah. Oh, someone else?
No, go ahead, Dom.
If you're operating the sites, your normal sites in summer, you want to complete the information for summer operations in those sites that you plan on operating during the summer. Is that Melissa?
I would say for ease right now, don't fill those out until closer to the summer, till after we have this approved, and then go back and fill them out.
Okay, we have 2 more questions. What happens if a person that is handing out lunches comes down with coronavirus?
I will chime in on that one. Call your health department for guidance.
Next one. If we opted to serve breakfast and lunch during this emergency closure, will we have to continue to serve breakfast during our normal summer feeding?
This is Dominique again. No, you have the option of which meals to serve when you operate the summer food service program. This is extreme situation under unanticipated school closures.
One more question popped in. My school has recently been approved to deliver meals by bus. We plan to start the routes tomorrow, but the bus company has added 5 more stops than originally submitted on attachment A. Do I need to resubmit attachment A with the adjusted route? Thanks.
I would say yes to that. However, what are they normal stops during the school year? Why are they adding them?
Oh gosh, one more question. Has there been any waiver for payroll of federally paid employees? I understand child nutrition employees are similar to paras and that they have to get their same hours in their regular pay.
So this is Colleen. You know, I'm not sure that we know the answer to that. So I think that I would recommend going to, you know, your administrator or, you know, that's just not something that in child nutrition, there has not been a waiver for that at this point.
Okay, looks like that's it.
Okay, again, big time thanks to the team for jumping in and taking charge of this after my internet did something weird. So we will go ahead, and these were excellent questions. So thank you so much. We're hopeful that everyone learned something here. We'll be having another webinar at the same time next week. So be looking for these Q&As. We'll get these out as soon as we can. And again, the audio will, once it is made ADA compliant, will be out on the governor's website also. So thank you very much, everyone, for your participation.